Hello, everyone, and welcome to our 22.0 version release webinar. I'm Noah Shai, Product Marketing Manager, and with me is Nicole Leeper. Nicole?
Hi, everyone. Welcome to our webinar today. I'm very excited to get started, so let's begin. Okay, so as Noah said, I'm Nicole Lipper, a product manager here at Priority, and we're here today to go over the main highlights of our newest Priority ERP release, which was officially released on April 17th. Excuse me. I'm also going to take this opportunity to share with you some of our plans for upcoming versions. Now, if you would like to see all the new features that this release has to offer beyond what we chose to show you today, you're more than welcome to check out the official release notes on our website. Now, during the webinar today, you can write your questions inside the webinar chat box on the right-hand side of your screen, and we'll do our best to answer your questions as we move through the presentation. And at the end of the webinar, we're going to review your questions and answer any new questions that weren't addressed during the session and questions that we think that are relevant for everyone to hear. So thank you all for being here today, and let's get started. Now, during the presentation, you're going to witness some of our plans for upcoming releases, just like I mentioned before. Now, it's important for you to be aware of these features, but it's also important for me to state that these are our plans for the time being, and we can't promise that any of the future features that you will hear about today will in fact be a part of a future release. So, the new age of ERP understands today that one size fits none, which means that each company and user wants to have a system that's customized to their specific needs. And this smart system will allow users to teach it on the one hand, and on the other hand, studies the user's usage patterns using smart AI capabilities and recommends a personalized ERP experience. The first thing I'd like to share with you today is some of the progress that we made in this area. Now, as you know, today we already have the ability to provide best practices for various types of organizations, like by vertical or by territory. So when a new company joins Priority, we can provide them with a package that's fit for their needs. Now, in the past, we told you how we did this for Zoom customers in Israel, and recently we used these same tools to develop a high-tech package in Israel as well. So let's take the high-tech company as an example. We know that these types of companies mainly use, for example, purchase orders, purchase approvals, they maintain a budget, and they work in English. So what we did is we made a package out of it. And when a new high-tech company installs Priority for the first time, the system will automatically be configured according to the high-tech company's best practices. So in version 22.0, which is the current release, we did a few more things in this area, and that's what I'd like to show you. The next step to customize ERP at a company level is our new onboarding experience. New organizations will digitally walk through a business needs questionnaire, as you see here on the two right images, and based on the answers, Priority will automatically configure its functionality scope. An example of a question could be, do you work with budgets? If the company answers no, Priority will automatically hide all the forms and fields that are related to budgets in the system. In addition, when setting up a new company, Priority will guide you through the first steps, which are adding a logo, entering the company details, adding a bank account, like you can see here on the left image. So after a few short steps, the company can enjoy a customized system and with a workspace that's designed to fit its needs as well. We currently implemented this solution for new cloud Zoom customers in Israel as our pioneers, and we're planning to broaden this functionality to additional areas in the future. So one size fits none is not only on a company level, as we just saw, but also on a user level. Using a smart mechanism, the user's day-to-day usage is monitored, and based on smart insights, we can give them personalized recommendations to fit their workspace to their personal needs. One example of this is Priority's personalized homepage that includes widgets or tiles that represent the user's most common activity. If the user accepts the recommendations, shortcuts to their most frequently used processes will be added to their homepage. Another example of this is how the system recommends the next best action for the users while they're working on a specific business process, like a purchase order, for example. There are a lot of actions available to the user, and if the user accepts the system's recommendation, a shortcut to their most used actions will be made available directly in the UI's top panel for easy and quick access to the next action. As you know, Priority's platform is rich with functionality. Based on Priority's AI recommendations, the system filters out features in sublevels that the user hasn't recently accessed so that only the relevant ones for the user will be displayed. Now, let me just mention that all of these intelligent workspace recommendations are relevant across the board in Priority. The system continuously learns from user behavior and makes recommendations accordingly. Of course, the user can choose to accept the recommendation, choose to personalize their own workspace, or choose not to receive recommendations at all. But we believe that this is the key for users to get a better experience, especially new ones. This solution is currently implemented for our cloud customers who can enjoy a personalized workspace fit for their needs, and this is definitely a huge benefit of being on our cloud. In the future, we're going to enrich the personalization functionality and expand it to other areas. In the future, we also plan to base recommendations on community behavior as well, and not only personal usage. So we saw how in some cases the system can learn about our behavior and recommend how to design our workspace. And now we'll see in some cases how we can teach the system what we want and what we need. On the top part of screens in the system, we have a new button for Priority's Automation Hub, which is a cute little robot you can see on the top of the slide right here. The Automation Hub can be used to set up automations for the otherwise manual repetitive tasks, which brings true RPA functionality to the table and ultimately frees up the user to focus on other more challenging tasks. This interactive and easy-to-use hub consists of tools, some of which you might already be familiar with, like macro, business rules, autofill rules, that provide rule-based automations and data-driven automations. And some of these may be totally new. Of course, we're going to offer ready-to-use and customized automations, and the users will be able to add and record their own automated repetitive tasks. So if I zoom into the macro tool, I want to tell you that it has undergone two main changes in version 22.0. The user experience for building a macro rule is now more intuitive and easy. You don't have to be an expert user to set up a shortcut or an automation. In addition, we added the ability to set up a macro automation for full business processes. Up until today, you could only set up a macro for one form. Now you can set up a macro for more than one form. For example, the delivery manager can go over all sales orders that need to be fulfilled the next day, and with a quick click of a button, activate an automation that opens a shipping document for each and every one of those sales orders. Looking forward, we are going to continue to take strong tools in Priority, transfer them to the Automation Hub, and improve their user experience, alongside with adding new functionality as well, like the ability to offer intelligent workflows by automatic detection of work patterns. I'd like to talk about a few UI changes that we made in version 22.0. As you can see here on the right, we added functionality for those that want to search using copy and paste from a spreadsheet. You can now copy a list of document numbers, part numbers, or customer numbers, for example, from Excel and paste them in the priority search. Additionally, while running a saved search on a form with search results, you can now ask to add the search results to the already displayed records. As in every release, we also continue to improve the intuitiveness and appearance of the system. So on the left, you can see the new report dialog box that has a special area for saved reports on the bottom. In Priority Mobile, we added new dedicated fields for a faster and more intuitive user experience. I won't go into all of these new mobile features, but I will mention two of them. You can see here on the screen that the final price over here for a document or for a list of documents, as you can see over here, can be highlighted. In addition, if you want to update a customer or a supplier's details, you can do so using the combined field over here that includes the name and the number.
Nicole, I see that we have many people that are interested in the personalization. If you can say additional few words about it.
Sure. Okay, so I'm very happy to see that you're interested in the personalization tool. It is very, very happy and very, very strong tool. So I'm going to explain again. We monitor the use of our cloud customers. And if, for example, we see that a certain user uses the same form or procedure or report many times over a period of time, which typically is 30 days, and we see that the user accesses these entities from the main menu, we'll recommend adding these entities as a tile or a widget to the user's homepage for easier and faster access. We do the same in forms as well. And if we see that a user doesn't use certain sub-level forms at all, once a month, we'll recommend that they hide these sub-level forms from their form. If, for example, the user did in fact hide all the unused sub-level forms from their form, then the next month, if they continue to work the same, we won't recommend anything, of course. Now, the user can ask not to receive any recommendations from the system, and then we won't recommend a thing. There's also a similar mechanism for actions in a form. If we see that a user uses actions that are in the action menu more than the actions that are outside of the menu as buttons on the top of the screen, we'll recommend organizing the actions so that the most used actions are first on the list as buttons on the top of the screen, instead of hidden in the menu, and that's so they can be accessed faster and more easily. Now, everything I just told you is based on monitoring of our cloud customers. Therefore, only cloud customers can enjoy this feature right now. For us, this is a real differentiator, which will encourage more and more customers to migrate to the cloud. And cloud customers can enjoy a personalized user experience that we're very proud that we can provide for smart features to our cloud customers. So let's continue to ERP features. Okay, part of what you're seeing here today on our webinar and some of the features of the new release, as I told you, you can see in the official release notes, are a result of your feedback, our customers and our partners. In version 22.0, a total of 49 wanted functionality items from a total of 287 customers were taken care of. Now, some of the things that you asked for are already planned for upcoming versions. I won't go into detail right now, but what you should take from here is that your feedback matters. Most of you are probably familiar with approval lists in Priority that allow having a round of approval in order to approve documents in the system. In recent releases, and also in the current release, 22.0, we focused on a few things in this area. One of them was to create a unified experience for all the approval lists in the system so that all the forms have approval lists, those currently and those in the future. All of them will behave exactly the same way, both visually and functionality-wise. We also added approval lists to more forms like price quotes and sales orders. And as part of this process, we now allow users in the approval list to approve documents using email. So as you see here on the right part of your screen, the user will receive an email and will be able to click approve, click approve or reject right inside the email, and that will automatically update Priority, of course, without the user having to work directly in Priority. In the upcoming versions, we will let companies set up approval lists per role, and we're planning to build a mechanism that will automatically fill in the approval list code in a document based on certain criteria like department, budget item, etc. In the new release, we continued to add functionality for distributed organizations, which means organizations that have multiple companies or multiple instances of Priority. In version 22.0, we added the ability to work with serial numbers on a multi-company level. This is especially useful when, for example, a serial number is manufactured in company A, then it's transferred to company B and sold from there, and then company B receives the serial number back from the customer and sends it to company C to be fixed. So that was just an example. But this new mechanism will allow full traceability of the serial number and the serial tree throughout all companies on the installation. We also added the ability to perform reconciliations between two companies on the same installation that have a client-vendor relationship between them. So you can now easily upload the data from the sister company for easy reconciliation. In the MDM module, which is the new EDI, Master Data Management, for those of you who are not familiar, we initiated a new type of privilege in the system. This privilege enables to define which fields in a record that was generated by the EDI the company will be able to edit, and which fields will remain uneditable. For example, if I distributed a vendor from my master company to all the other companies, I don't want one of the companies to be able to accidentally change the vendor's name or VAT number, but on the other hand, I do want them to be able to change the vendor's score or payment terms because this is per company. And that I will use this new privilege type for. So what's in store for distributed organizations going down the road? We're going to extend our data privilege management tool, which is the tool that allows to define privileges to read data based on different criteria like agents and branches. And this time we will focus on the parameter inputs of reports and procedures. Users that are not allowed to see certain data will not be able to run processes on that same data. For users that work with subsidiaries or branches, we will enable them to be able to enter the system in a certain subsidiary or branch, and as a result, all new documents they open will automatically be associated with that subsidiary or branch. And we will enrich our object distribution tool with the ability to distribute profiles. As you know, in every version, we add functionality for our customers around the world. So in this version, we have a new product localization in South Africa. Furthermore, we continued to add functionality to existing localizations. So in Belgium, we added integrations to well-known tools in the Belgian market. In Italy, we added the ability to create a visual copy of an incoming invoice in case there's no PDF attachment. We supported a new regulation in Portugal to add a new mandatory QR code to invoices and an account tree for SAFT. In France, we have a new XML file for Intrastat. And for our European countries, we added the ability to use Priority's prepayment invoice feature because now this feature supports multiple VAT rates, as is generally the case in Europe. Talking about what's next, we're planning integration with a payroll software in the US, digital banking in the UK, similar to what we already have in Israel. In Poland, there is already a new localization being built by one of our partners in Poland. We're helping out and supporting that partner, but this is actually the first time where a partner-built product localization is being built together with us. And finally, we're planning to start our first steps in expanding to the Far East. We're going to do so by adding functionality to support special rounding needs in countries like Japan and Korea and Taiwan. We're not talking about a full localization, but rather special rounding needs that are customary in these types of territories. Moving on to finance. The revenue recognition module that's been with us since version 20.1 continued to expand and now includes more functionality for our customers. You can now set various recognition components per each document line when setting up fair value on the document level. We added support for defining an unbilled receivables account with the same hierarchy that we supported for a deferred income account. When the revenue is recognized before the billing, the journal will post the unbilled receivables account. When working with revenue recognition by progress of completion, we added support for an expiry date in contract obligation. So when the date passes, the system will automatically recognize 100% of the obligation. This can be useful when recognizing revenue for professional services with a limited usage period. Let's talk a little bit about reconciliation. About 4 years ago, we launched a new split reconciliation worksheet to replace the legacy reconciliation worksheet. And what we did is we offered an easier, more intuitive user experience. A recent check showed us that over 1,000 of our cloud customers already use the new split worksheets. Now, as the years went by, we continued to add more functionality to the split worksheets. And nowadays, we see that many of the challenges that our users faced in the past no longer exist today. And of course, we keep adding functionality all the time, including in the current version. So as you see here on the right part of your screen, when you report a partial reconciliation, a pop-up screen will appear instead of a procedure to let you fill in the details of the partial reconciliation. Now, due to the fact that this is now a screen, you can use priority screen capabilities like setting up autofill rules or business rules, making the user experience easier and faster. Now, after extensive talks with users in the field, we came to the conclusion that the legacy reconciliation worksheets should gradually be removed from the system in favor of the split reconciliation worksheets. The first step in all of this is that all new customers on our cloud as of version 22.0 will only see the split reconciliation worksheets, meaning they will never know that there used to be anything else. And during the next few months, and until the release of version 22.1 in October, we're planning to help our Cloud Zoom customers do this and migrate, providing them with webinars and videos and other materials, and ultimately hold their hand until they complete the transition to the split reconciliation worksheets. When version 22.1 will be released in October, our Cloud Zoom customers will no longer have the legacy worksheets in the system. And later on, we're going to continue to do the same thing for more types of customers until gradually all customers have made the move. Keep in mind, of course, that all the while we will continue to add functionality to the split reconciliation worksheets to make the day-to-day work easier. And one of the plans that we have for the future is to allow multi-select on both sides of the worksheet. We added, moving on to something a little bit different, but in the same area, we added support for standing order payments to vendors. So when recording a bank statement line, you can specify the vendor that you sent the payment to, select the invoices for which the payment was taken, and as a result, the system will automatically record the payment. The invoice will be reconciled as well as the bank line. Similarly, you can choose a primary account and the system will automatically create a reconciliation transaction and reconcile it with the bank statement. And all of this is in addition to what we already offer, the capability to reconcile customer invoices and create receipts. This workflow is designed for companies that want to close a bank statement and create entry transactions simultaneously without using the reconciliation worksheets. Priority payments, our payment solution, continues to expand as more and more customers join. The click to pay feature, where the end customer can click on a button in the invoice and make a payment, is now available to collect payments for sales orders and price quotes as well. So basically, the printout of the order will include a Pay Now button that will redirect the end customer to the familiar payment page. And after the payment, the system will create a receipt for that order. And in case the payment was for a quote, the system will create both an order and a receipt. We also now support more payment methods, SEPA for the European market and BACS for the British market. And we're also glad to update that our technology partner, PayMe, has gone live with a full reporting experience for the American market, which up until now was available only in Israel. So from now on, American customers can enjoy a dashboard that has full commission visibility, including invoices and reports that help the monthly reconciliations. Our future plans include continuing to enrich priority payments with more payment methods like Apple Pay. And companies that wish to do so will be able to let their end customers partially pay invoices using Click to Pay and the payments portal. And last thing, we will take the onboarding process one step forward, making it easier, faster, and more digital. You may remember that in the last version, we announced the new multi-company budget feature. So in this version, we added some controls for defining financial constants in the system for working with this. And they're aimed at minimizing errors. We also changed the way budget control works in respect to deferred expense invoices. Now, the budget control will consider the line amount divided into term periods and the corresponding appropriation. If the term goes into another year, the system will work based on the budget version for the relevant year. We also added more dimensions to the Budget BI report to allow a more comprehensive analysis of budget. The dimensions are account, cost center of the account, and profit center. In Israel, we continued to add functionality to Priorities Payroll module as a result of regulation changes. Let's move on to logistics. Part availability, one of the most useful forms in the system that allows to see the availability of a part based on its inventory, commitments, and predicted entry into the inventory, has had some new functionality added to it. You can now exclude certain documents from the calculation, for example, sales orders that are still in draft. We added more types of forms to the availability calculation, like service tickets, blanket purchase orders, and blanket sales orders. And if you work with branches, you can now track the part availability in each branch separately. Our integration with Ship Engine, which allows our customers in North America, Australia, UK to ship goods using shippers like UPS, FedEx, etc., has had some new availabilities added to it as well. You can now define for each customer who pays for the shipment, the company or the customer, instead of manually defining this while shipping. Now, when the company is the one that's paying for the shipment, you can have a shipping line automatically added to the shipping document. And also, you can now generate manifests as PDF documents if you work with certain shippers that require this type of manual work. Next, in the upcoming versions, we're going to add support for customs when international shipments are made from country A to country B. We're planning to support internal boxing solutions. And we're planning to add the ability to distinguish between residential and commercial addresses because it may influence the shipping cost. Excuse me. Industrial and commercial companies that manage servicing processes can now plan MRP according to service calls without recording a sales order. Quantities of planned servicing parts will also deduct from forecast quantities accordingly. In the next versions, we're going to add the ability to answer the following questions out of a sales order line. The first one is it possible to provide the ordered quantity on the requested date? If not, how much of the ordered quantity can be provided on the requested date? And last question, what is the actual date that I can provide the order quantity? Moving on to another topic, preventative maintenance, we added support for seasonal maintenance. So now, for example, you can set up a monthly maintenance plan and be able to exclude certain months from the maintenance plan as needed. We also now allow assigning manpower with specialties to different maintenance types, so that when the maintenance plan is generated, these special employees will already be assigned to the service calls automatically. Moving on to inventory, in addition to the multi-company serial numbers we talked about in context to distributed organizations, we added a new feature for companies that want to tighten the control over inventory transactions of serial numbers, and they can now block users from performing any inventory transactions that don't match up with the serial number registration in the system, as opposed to before when it was a warning. Companies that use our WMS solution may now temporarily prevent their warehouse employees from accessing certain warehouse bins. For example, if a certain bin is undergoing an inventory count or is being cleaned. A few words about Priorities Rental module. This module has been with us since version 20.0. It's helpful for businesses that rent out equipment, including checking availability, both visually and using a Gantt chart, making an order, shipping and returning the rented equipment, and a full end-to-end billing process. So in version 22.0, we added support for availability checking for companies that rent equipment that's not serialized, and we added a new partial return feature for companies that rent out large amounts of equipment and gradually receive them back on unexpected dates and in unexpected quantities. In the next versions, we're going to add prepayment options and index-linked prices. Our sales rep commission mechanism now allows defining a commission percent per part in addition to the already existing options per sales rep, per customer, and per part family. And for each one of these options that I just told you about, you can now also define tiered commission. So for example, the sales rep commission could be 5%, but if the total line amount is above $10,000, the sales rep commission will jump to 7%. In the next versions, we're going to continue to add functionality to the sales rep commission mechanism. We're going to allow adding another sales rep to the documents, and we will add more options for commission calculation. For example, like defining that the commission is calculated based on the profit of the line and not the sales amount. Besides the different features and tools that we develop here in Priority, like we talked about up until now, integrations continue to be a significant growth factor because they provide us with the innovation and additional functionality. One of the examples of this is Zapier, which is a platform for connecting software using API. It has over 3,000 different applications that can be connected one to another. And as of 2 years ago, Priority is one of these applications, which means that companies can easily connect their Priority system to other applications that are offered by Zapier, for example, e-commerce applications, but not limited to, of course. Now, up until now, applications could connect to Priority and read data or write data to Priority. And what we did is, from now on, Priority can also be the initiator and connect to other applications. So for example, when a sales order status is changed to confirmed in priority, we can have data be sent to another application. And this technology that I am talking about is called webhooks, which ultimately is available from version 20.1, but is now implemented into Zapier as of version 22.0. Now, it's important to note that this webhooks technology can be used not only in Zapier, like I said, but in any third-party application that you want to transfer data to with priority as the initiator. Okay, so we reached the end and we saw your questions. Noah.
Yeah, thank you, Nicole, for a great session, first of all. We have a couple of questions. The first one is about Zapier, if you can elaborate a little bit. And the second one is if you can give a few examples to cross-form macros.
Okay, sounds good. So the first question that came from the audience was regarding explaining a little bit more about Zapier. So what's new here is that you can actually start a process in priority and end it in another system. Okay, up until now, it was only possible for third-party systems to actively approach priority and either read data from priority or write data to priority. But now priority can be the initiator. So maybe an example to make it clear. Changing the status of a purchase order to approved, for example, will lead to creating something called webhooks, which will be sent to Zapier, and Zapier will send the information to the third-party system that you chose to connect to. And if we're already on this topic, actually, it's a good opportunity for me to encourage you to reach out to us. If you have any business needs that aren't covered in the priority experience with Zapier, and let us know so that we can help build more types of connections for our customers. The second question you were talking about that came from the audience was another example of utilizing macro between screens, right?
Right.
Okay, so think of a business that wants to create a budget which is exactly according to its general ledger. So the user can pull out the list of accounts on the screen, and by using a macro recording, the user can create the budget tree automatically with the two-way links between the budget items and the account with just one click. And this is really, really big news. Now, perhaps for experienced priority users who already know the power of macros, this new functionality might seem a bit trivial, but in the ERP world, there's a concept called RPA, which is robotic process automation. And there are actually dedicated systems out there that enable this functionality, whereas here at Priority, we provide this functionality out of the box, and it's based on macro. So this is really, really good news. So looking over your questions, we saw that the rest of the questions were either really, really specific or really, really in the depths of features. So we prefer to answer these personally, offline, to whoever asked. So thank you again for listening today. And we hope to see you in future webinars.
Thank you for attending this webinar. See you next time.
Bye.
Bye-bye.